for up to 150 guests. Stop by to see us at the Forum Shops at Caesars and ask for Thomas Johnson, your maitre d'.
Here with Teddy Covers, Todd Wishnev. I'm Dave Cokin. Todd, have you been to Joe's Seafood Prime Steak and Stone Crab?
No, I haven't, Dave, but
you are a purveyor of good food. You
Dave,
love good food.
I really do not need to know any more good places to
This
eat.
is the
I
best.
need less food, Dave,
This
not
is the
more
best.
food.
Listen, get the diet seafood. Okay,
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear any of that.
it's fantastic. Make a reservation.
Actually, I could have some healthy salmon, some vegetables.
There you go.
Yeah.
They've got Copper River sockeye salmon that is due in around this time. It's the best salmon in the world. It's seafood, fish.
That's very
good
healthy.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's true.
Get the Dover sole. It's my favorite
Yeah,
dish.
some
there.
sole with some vegetables is
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely. You can eat great and be healthy, too. 702-792-9222 is the phone number at Joe's. What did Ralph Michaels come up with for this gem today?
So there's a fair few variables in this, but it actually makes sense. And plus, it gives us a bet against the Red Sox. So I figured that would please you. Here's a system.
It's not a very nice thing to say.
Yeah, I'm having a rough day. I'm just ripping everybody.
He likes people spitting on umpires, and now he's going after Dave.
Home favorites of minus 200 or less. So not the giant
200
home
or less.
favorites.
Okay.
Yes. Not the $3 favorites and the $2.50 favorites, but relatively competitive games. Home favorites of $2 or less. It has to be versus a division foe. It has to be in the first game of a series. There has to be no rest. And it has to be off a 3-game series sweep on the road. So that's a bunch of parameters, but they make sense. It's a home favorite against a division foe who's motivated. First game back, no rest, off a sweep on the road. Well, since 2004, those teams are 17-32, minus 32 units, an average line of minus 150. The play is against Boston. Play on Tampa at plus 100.
So can I ask you about the theory on that?
Yeah.
So you're saying now that because they're the better team and they just swept a team prior to this, and they're playing the next day, they're going to take it easy because the division foe is playing them harder. Is that what you're saying, basically?
I'm saying that this particular system, and again, these are Ralph's systems, they're not my systems. I don't bet them blindly. But this one makes sense to me, okay? Because you have favorites. You have a favorite that's good, that's in a good spot, but not a ridiculously good spot. You know, it's not Sale against Eunice. You know,
Okay.
So the favorite's 200 or less. Okay, the division foe means you're getting someone that you have familiarity
Motivated.
with.
Right. Okay.
There's a familiarity level in division series. You get every once in a while a team wins 16 out of 19, but they tend to be more competitive. Okay, then it's the first game back with no rest off a 3-game sweep. So the team that's favored is fat and happy, traveling home, no rest against this division foe, and again, there's not a ton of instances, only 49 of them since 2004, but it's paid off. And the home chalk is, again, the average line is minus 152, and they're 17-32 in that role.
Very good.
Worth noting.
We have a final score in. The Cubs have defeated the Cardinals 3-1. 8 shutout innings by Cole Hamels in that game. The run came against Pedro Strop in the ninth inning. Cubs, however, hold on to get the 3-1 victory over the Cardinals. Everything else in Major League Baseball is tonight.
Can I thank Anthony Rizzo for slowing down around third base because I had the under in the first 5 and also under in the game. And in the bottom of the 5th with 2 outs, he ran around third base with a 3-0 score. The over-under was 4. He's coming around third base to score. He decides to slow down and then try to run home, and he gets thrown out at the plate, so my under cash. By the way, base running in Major League Baseball, please tell me, Dave, do these guys learn from little leaguers how to run the bases?
No, they'd be better at it if they did, because fundamentals are still stressed at very young ages in baseball.
Yeah, I've seen. I've been watching more than my fair share of little league games the last couple of years.
They didn't say they could execute it, but they tried teaching it at least.
Yes. At the young level, they're struggling. You know,
but once you get to
once you get to
high school, you're supposed to know all that stuff, and it's just astonishing at times.
Guys getting thrown out by 20 feet. It's amazing to me.
It's less frustrating than getting thrown out by 1.
And again, you're thankful for it.
Yeah.
No. In this case, I was thankful.
You
but Teddy, my record on these kind of things is about 99-1 usually.
You got the one today.
Yes, I did.
You know,
could be the start of a roll.
Yes,
you're due.
The landscape of sports betting is going crazy, and a perfect byproduct of that was an actual 4-part documentary on Showtime with one of the featured personalities being Todd Wishnev, who's in studio with us today. You can follow him at T.
Wishnev. It's
at
like
T.
the
Wishnev.
Wish and then the first 3 letters of the word never. So at T. Wishnev.
You can follow Teddy at Teddy_Covers. You can follow me at Dave Cokin. we've all been involved in gambling for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What we've been involved in is now about to change as dramatically as it can possibly change because of the massive expansion of legalized sports wagering. I mean, boom, we're at 20 states already, I believe it is. And, let's face it, it's going to be 40 within a few years. My first thought on this is the greatest thing in the world for a sharp bettor. Because the more people that are involved, the more a sharp bettor can take advantage of it. Some sharp bettors disagree with that. What do you think?
You want me to?
Yeah,
go
sure.
first?
You go first, Todd.
Well, I think it's going to really depend on the governmental situation in each state. You have a situation in New Jersey where there's tons of competition. It doesn't cost that much money to get a license, so there's competition. And I think you're going to see stuff like PointsBet where they have like a minus 105 on totals.
Yep.
Whereas in Pennsylvania, where it costs $10 million to get a license, not as much competition. And I was just home in Pittsburgh. I grew up in Pittsburgh, went to the Rivers Casino during college basketball, and the totals are minus 114 each side.
Oh, boy.
Wait, it gets worse. I go up, and the live betting is 35 cents line, 35 cents wide, which is basically just rape and pillaging, right?
So sharp act. I mean, really,
Wait,
there's not a sharp bettor at all is going to play.
It gets worse, Dave. I said, okay, I'm not going to play into a 35-cent live line. Can I at least bet the second half, please? Sir, we don't have second half. You have to bet in-game. I'm like, so I have to bet into a 35-cent line on the second half. This is Canby. That's a European company that runs all these Pennsylvania books, and they're just raping and pillaging, and people don't realize.
Okay, but they'll end up they'll have to change at some point.
Only if there's competition, and if it's $10 million to get a license in a particular state, there's not going to be much competition.
Then they won't do then the illegal market will continue to flourish in Pittsburgh. It's as simple as that, because especially the bigger bettors, they're not going to play at
Meanwhile,
houses
it's five lines deep at each kiosk
For
to make
now.
a bet. Yeah.
But those are all
exactly.
$10, $20 bettors.
Right,
Can't
right.
make any money off them.
They're going to fleece the little guy.
See, with all of the legalization that's gone on, and 15 states now, 15 states in D.C.
Right. But the numbers, I mean, there's more on the way.
For all of this, okay, how many people are betting regularly now in those states that weren't betting regularly before legalization?
I think it's actually more than you think.
What do you think, Todd?
I think it's a little more, because I think there's interest in sports betting. There's a lot of people, like me and you think everybody knows what the point spread is, right?
Sure.
People don't even know what the damn point spread is. To me, it's like so simple. I'm like trying to explain to them, -6, it means your team has to win by 6. They can't get these simple ideas.
Right.
So I think a lot of...
But those people aren't betting and not betting regularly, and even with the advent of legalized gambling, of legalized wagering,
Well,
but
they're
a
still
lot
not
of
betting
but
regularly.
if you pick up 5% of those people, that's a lot of people.
It might not be. And it's a tip of the iceberg, because the coming generation is going to be way more gaming sophisticated right out of the bat, because we're going to get. Look, there was no gambling information to speak of on ESPN. Now we've got a national network that's devoted full time to gambling and VSiN.
Well, ESPN,
and believe me, ESPN is going to. I will tell you right now. Within 5 years, ESPN will have a 24-hour gambling network.
I will be the
They
Dick
will have it.
Vitale of ESPN sports gambling when they get smart enough to hire me.
You're going to shave your head?
Is there a market for 24-hour gambling content?
Yeah. Yeah, there will be.
I wonder
Well, I
if
mean,
it's
it
an
won't be all-
oversaturation. I mean, if you ask me what the biggest change is, the biggest change is exactly what you were talking about, Todd, in-game wagering, okay? The early numbers from Pennsylvania and New Jersey is like 2/3 of all the handle.
But we haven't even tipped
is
the iceberg
in-game.
as far as in-game goes, because the technology is on the way so that you're going to be able to bet on the next pitch.
That's where the change is coming. That's where, I mean, that's the big, it's not that the lines are changing or that the marketplace is completely different now. It's that now it's that much more instantaneous. And the live betting is a so much bigger piece of the equation than it ever was before.
This is why I asked the question. And I'm not a poker player, so I'm going on what, let's just say people who I know play professional poker have told me. The best thing that ever happened to them was this massive expansion.
Sure, Chris
poker,
Moneymaker
because
winning.
it made Chris Moneymaker.
Moneymaker winning was
the best thing that ever happened to
for the next
to
4
sharp poker
years.
players.
Every poker player who was good was able to make money.
And they still are.
Because so many amateurs were coming in and losing, and there's such a steep learning curve.
This thing that Caesars Entertainment did, it was at the Rio, I believe, right? Where they had the tournament, the World Series of Poker.
Right, sure.
Yeah. What they did last week with this no rake.
Right. And get 28,000 people in the tournament.
What a great idea. Yeah. This was pure genius. Whoever came up with this at Caesars should be rewarded with like 9 years of paid vacations to the most exclusive resorts in the world. Because this was phenomenal on their part. The crowds they got last weekend, and then guess what these people did while they were in town? They spent a lot of money and other stuff. This was a great idea. Congratulations to Caesars Entertainment for it. And again, this is bringing the masses in, because most Joe Public poker players looked at this and said, I can't play in a tournament like World Series of Poker. I can't afford that. And then this event comes along, and it's like, I can afford that. I'm going to Las Vegas. To me, there's great correlations between poker and sports betting, even though they're two different entities, obviously.
But see, in poker, you're directly taking the money away from the bad players. In sports betting, there's a middleman who's going to hold that money, and that's called the bookmaker. And you have to beat the bookmaker, not the other players.
Well, but aside from this tournament this past weekend, there are rakes in poker games, so you can still overcome that nicely if you're the sharper player. And I think that's the way it's going to be with the blow up that's going to take place in sports betting. I think the sharper players are going to have a big advantage.
What is your point on the fact that you're playing against the players versus playing against the house? What is the point?
I'm saying that when you're at a poker table,
I agree with that.
And you look around the poker table and you say, "Wow, I'm the best person at this table," or
I'm
one of the best players. Yeah, you have a legitimate advantage.
Okay.
When I walk into a sports book and I say, "Wow, I'm as good as any sports bettor in here," that doesn't necessarily give me any other advantage that I already had. It's the same lines that I'm betting into. I'm not taking my money directly from their mistakes like I do in a poker game.
I think what you're really saying is it's easier to be a profitable poker player than it is to be a winning sports gambler. Yes, it is, because that's exactly what you're saying. Because you're saying there's fish out there in the poker world who are not as good as you, and you can sit at that table and beat them. Whereas in sports betting, you have to go against an educated house.
No, I'm saying in 2003, when Chris Moneymaker won, and for the next 5 years, all these people were trying poker for the first time, there was a river of fish.
Which made it easier to
Which
win.
made it easier for that particular period of time.
Okay.
Here we have a particular period of time where there are new people getting involved in sports
But not
betting.
necessarily fish situation. I get it.
But it's not that you get to take money from the fish as they're learning.
But Dave's point would be, Dave would say no, because now you've got more people involved, which is going to skew the lines in weird ways. If you have more dummies out there.
There's not a book in the country that's setting a line worried about one new bettor. Every book in the country is setting every line they have to beat wise guys. Not one of them is setting their line to beat a square.
I've heard you discuss this before.
Do you disagree?
Not really.
So
I disagree.
No, but all the square money coming into the system doesn't
help other pros.
Necessarily. Right. I'm not saying that you're not routinely.
Except for this.
It helps
I still want.
You might get a half point the better of it.
I don't want to know
game in, game out for the next 2 years.
I don't care too much about what the public is on. But I do want to know what the absolute mushes are on. I do. I do. It's like if I'm on the same side as Mush X.
Right.
I got a friend of mine who gets the action from. The guy might be the worst sports bettor on the planet.
Sure.
He's just. I can't even use the word.
My top
we'll lose our FCC license, but it's bleeping. He's awful.
Yeah,
he's awful, and I cringe if I'm ever on the same side as him. It's like, oh no, what did I do wrong here?
So I have one top 10 super contest finish. That's my the contest highlight is the top 10 super contest finish, and that was a year where I had one buddy from back in Michigan that every week who do you like, and if his game matched one of my games, it was gone, and that system if I would actually just faded him, I think I would have hit 80% that season. But instead, I just took the games that matched and threw it out, and then I ended up at the top 10 finish. So
that's why
having a good mush is worth something.
I've been Mr. Mush in baseball this year. I've hit 6 in a row in game in basketball, but in baseball, I have been Mr. Mush. So I'll be happy to send you guys my picks.
You know what? That's why the Cleveland Browns, until this past year, the 2 years prior, the Cleveland Browns destroyed the mush principles. All by themselves, because every mush was going against them every week,
and every wise guy was on them
and losing. Yeah.
But I mean,
that was the aberration.
I honestly see the marketplace in 2019 as a marketplace where you're not your true square was only betting parlay.